Good morning. Shifré Haran Khaf Aleph. Second paragraph, third paragraph. V'amar shachar kach al hayam bet shenasa le'eretz Yisrael az ra'a she'en lo shum chiyut mishum davar az hayichiach atzmo lichol ksat. We're speaking yesterday and the day before how Rabbeinu HaKadosh nullified his body to an extent that only the greatest tzaddikim that ever have lived has done that. Rabbeinu himself, there was no more body, it was a soul. He came to the point where he would not eat at all. And then even the little bit of eating that he ate, there was no ta'avanit whatsoever. Zero. And so Rabbeinu even later, when he wanted to try to eat, he couldn't eat. He broke himself so much in the end of eating that he was so used to not eating that when it came to try to eat, he wasn't able to eat, even though he was able to eat b'kedusha. In other words, we are physical beings and we still have a pleasure. You still like this food over this food. And even on any food, you still have a pleasure in the food. And it's completely normal. You're not expected to be anything else. But Rabbeinu HaKadosh got to the point where for him, a man and a woman, there's no difference. For him, eating, there is no physical eating. There is eating the spirituality of the food. The minimum to keep himself alive. We're talking about a few bites, fasting from Shabbat to Shabbat. And on Shabbat, eat a few bites. That's what we're talking about. I want you to realize that. So that's what, once he was fasting from Shabbat to Shabbat, blood was coming out of his nose and his eyes and his ears. That's the point that we're talking about. This is not to be tried at home. It's not for everybody. This is for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was 40 days in heaven without eating and drinking. Well, what does that mean? If anybody could have done it, Rabbeinu could have done it. If the dog would have been Ra'ui, and Yon Navi goes up to Shamayim with his body. Understand? So now later, when Rabbeinu traveled to Eretz Yisrael, there was, we're going to read his trip to Eretz Yisrael. It was life-threatening situations all the time. And at a certain point, he was on the boat from Turkey to Israel, and he had no more chiyut whatsoever. He forced himself to eat. He had no more energy. He forced himself to eat. So on the boat, he had to eat a little bit. He forced himself to eat to get some energy. Before that, he was not eating almost at all. And then after that, he started to eat a little bit. So he started to eat a little bit after his trip to Eretz Yisrael, which was, he was around, I think, 28 years old. Concerning this trip to Eretz Yisrael, there's a lot to talk about. Godal Yisurim, Vatsumim, Vakashim Me'od Me'od, Shayalo Banicha Bechazera. In those times, people were not going. It was months to travel to Eretz Yisrael. It was a horse from Breslev, or whatever it was Zlatipoli, Medivedika, to get to Ades to Istanbul to Israel. And it was on the boat, and it was Sakanat Mavit, and there was no security and no police and nobody protecting you. It was life-threatening, the whole trip that he had to Eretz Yisrael, and Rabbeinu was Moser Nefesh to get there, and he got such levels in Eretz Yisrael that he wanted to get there. After one day, he said, "I'm ready to go back." He got there, he attained what he wanted to attain. He said, "I'm ready to go home." The guy that came with him, he said, "No, let it stay a little bit." So they stayed. And Rabbeinu started his whole inyan of Rosh Hashanah, Uman Rosh Hashanah Shali, that the Rosh Hashanah was his, after he went to the Kever of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Tiknot, the Takanav Nishmot Yisrael, to fix Am Yisrael. And so we're going to read about what happened there in Eretz Yisrael. וגודל היגיעות ומסירת נפש, ריבוי המיניות שהיה לו קודם שזכה לבוא לארץ ישראל, ויעבור על זה, כל זה בקונטרסט מיוחד וכמובן בעזרת השם, אפס קצר ולא יכלו, כי אפשר לברר הכל. So we're going to have another whole booklet. The whole second part of Shifré Haran is talking about Rabbeinu's trip to Eretz Yisrael. And I want you to understand that Rabbeinu was a tzaddik from a young age, we saw. But when he came back from Eretz Yisrael, he was a new person. he wanted to get there to attain what he needed to attain in Eretz Yisrael. And even the Torahs that he wrote before Eretz Yisrael, he asked Rabbi Natan, don't publish them, don't print them. They're not at all what I'm proud of. The level that he got after Eretz Yisrael, we cannot begin to understand. His level that we know today was only after Eretz Yisrael. Before that, he wasn't tzaddik. But after Eretz Yisrael, you have to understand that to get to Eretz Yisrael back then was almost impossible. Almost nobody did it. And Rabbeinu almost lost his life many times on that trip. He had to do things of Mesirat Nefesh to bring himself down to a certain simplicity and pashtut to be able to get there. With the Baal Shem Tov himself tried to get to Israel, he couldn't get there because he wasn't able to go to Katnut. Katnut means to, let yourself be simple and take away all your honor and all your kavod and do things that are not befitting for a big tzaddik. And he got bushot on the way. People were embarrassing him and mocking him and making his life miserable the whole way there. We're going to read about it. And only through that he was able to get there. When Rabbeinu got to Eretz Yisrael, he said, now that I got there, don't forget, the Jews were not there for 1800 years. When Rabbeinu went to Eretz Yisrael, the Jews were already exiled for 1800 years, and there was a tiny community of people living there. Almost nobody was living there. And Rabbeinu said, now that I made it there, by the way, he took one of the routes that was becheskat sakana, that it was life-threatening to take that route in Islam. Nobody used to take that route. If you go there, you're going to die. He went during the War of Napoleon, where everybody said, do not travel. And he was Muslim on show. He said, what's going to be with me? I don't know, but I'm going to get there. He got there, and when he came back, he said, now that I went there, the door's open. Now that I got there, the door, you can, Am Yisrael will be able to start to go into this. And from that moment on, in history, the aliyot started to happen. So Rabbeinu's trip to Eretz Yisrael made it, since I paved the way, now you guys can go easily. It's like there's no highway, he made a highway, now you can drive on the highway. He paved the highway. Imagine the guy who paves the highway. Rabbeinu said, now you guys can go easily to Eretz Yisrael. For us to go to Eretz Yisrael today, you hop on a plane, you're there in 12 hours, you get money if you want to come live there. Understand what it is today? But there was no food back then. People were dying of hunger. Kipshuto dying of, there was no food, whatever, there was no parnasah, zero. Rabbeinu made it there, and because of that, we're able to come easier. I want to tell you one more thing. It's like two things to tell you. You understand what we're dealing with here? It's very good that we read these things about who the Rebbe is. You're going to Uman, you're not going to a regular tzaddik. C'est pas tous les mêmes, like they want to say. It's not the same. Rabbeinu said that the divrei chol, there's divrei Torah and divrei chol. Divrei chol means we're schmoozing around the coffee. We're talking, two friends talking, walking, sitting outside, on the bus, on the plane. That's called sichat chunin. And then you have the shiur, the Torah. So you have a shiur in the Torah of a Rav. And then you have a shiur in a shiur Torah of a tzaddik. Imagine you come Rosh Hashanah to a tzaddik. You come the Yom Kippur, Ne'ilah to a tzaddik. And he's going to say something, you're going to be inspired, you're going to be picked up. Rabbeinu said, the sichat chunin, the mundane conversations of the tzaddik emet is higher than the Torah of the other tzaddikim. The mundane conversation of the tzaddik emet, sichot Haran. Sichot Haran is when Rabbeinu was talking with Rabbi Natan about everything. Those can mechazik you more than Torahs, mamarim, emshechim, like.
That's what he meant when he said
yeah.
They're greater than he said the person who's reading it can be higher.
No, the person that's reading, it will change you more. It'll benefit you more. It'll help you do more tshuva. It'll awaken you more than the Torah of another tzaddik. A Torah, a whole book that the tzaddik could have worked on for a year. The simple dibur of the tzaddik emet could change your life more than that. And why is it? Because we're talking about somebody that's not physical anymore. There's no more body. There's no more woman. There's no more food. There's nothing. There's only neshama. It's completely 100% pure olive oil. There's no additives. So because of that, so when you're going to Rabbeinu, why is it? You're going to the neshama. You're going to the source. When you're going to Uman, when you're going for Rosh Hashanah, it's like connecting the body and the soul. We're the body of Am Yisrael, and he's the soul of Am Yisrael. Imagine a body without a soul. What is it? You're going to your source. You're going to your neshama. And when everybody there comes together, you're going to the Bet Mikdash. You're going to the shorish of the Bet Mikdash. The tzaddik emet is the shorish of the Bet Mikdash. The Eben Shtiyah is the tzaddik emet. So that's the first thing to know. When you're going there, you're not going regular place. And it's not all the same. And Rabbeinu, don't be mistaken. Breslovers are mechabed all the tzaddikim. There's tikkun klali by all the tzaddikim. Who's going to all the tzaddikim? The Breslovers. Because when you have a Rabbeinu, When you know of Rabbeinu, you understand that each tzaddik is an offshoot of the tzaddik emet. There's not 100 tzaddikim. There's one tzaddik, and how much do you draw from that tzaddik? How much do you get from him? So this tzaddik will get this amount from him. This will get this amount. But each one it's one neshama. The tzaddik emet is one neshama, and each tzaddik has a portion of Moshe Rabbeinu. So once you taste the real tzaddik emet, now you can't go there again. You can't go there. But what are you going to do with your time? You're going to go to the coffee shop, or you're going to go to this kever tzaddik? I'm going to go to this kever tzaddik because I got the injection from Rabbeinu that I want to have holiness. So I'm going to run to all the kibbutz tzaddikim because there's what to gain from all of them. There's what to gain from all the tzaddikim. Not to be taken. These conversations should not be taken in the wrong way. We're mechabet all the tzaddikim. However, we understand that, like you said, who would you like to have lunch with? Aaron HaKohen, Pinchas, Elazar, or a goy in the coffee shop? Understand? It's not Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's Pinchas. If you stay with Pinchas, you're gonna become yourself something else. So we go to all the tzaddikim, but don't make a difference. Don't מבולבל. There's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, there's Talmidim. There's the Arizal and Nuchan Vital. There is the tzaddik emes. First thing. Second thing is that like this. The Arizal had a Talmid, was the Beit Yosef. The Beit Yosef was the Talmid of the Arizal. The one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch of Yosef Karo, which is Somite, he was at the time of the Ari in Tzfat. They would pray in the same shul. Interesting that the Chazan, he waits for the Rav to finish the tefillah. Unless the Rav says, don't wait for me. So they would wait in that shul of the Arizal for the Beit Yosef and Rav Yosef Karo, for them both to go back. So they always wait. Once the Arizal finished and Rav Yosef Karo didn't finish. So the story says that the Ari told the Chazan, go. So they asked him why. He says, we wait for him when he's davening. When he's learning, we don't wait for him. And that means in his tefillah, he was learning Torah. He stopped and paused, he had a chidush, and he was thinking out the sugya in his tefillah. The Arizal knows this, you understand? So they say the story like this, that the Beit Yosef, one of the things that happen in yeshivot, one of the main jobs is to figure out how the Rambam learns. I'll explain. The Rambam gives a psak al from the Gemara. Not always explains, he doesn't explain how he gets from the Gemara to the Halacha. Meaning, you have the Gemara like we're learning, and then what's the Halacha? So sometimes the Rambam will say Halacha, which is not clear at all how it comes from. And the job of Rabbanim and Rosh Hashivas and for 1,000 years has been, how did the Rambam get it from here? One of the reasons they burnt the Rambam because he didn't write sources. The Rambam is Kodesh Kodeshim, the whole Shulchan Aruch, 80% of Shulchan Aruch comes from the Rambam. They burned his book when it came out. From here, proof that if the Cholek on the Tzaddik, when the Tzaddik is alive, everybody's Cholek on him. When he passes away, they accepted his words. So they burned the books of the Rambam. Why? Because the Rambam didn't write sources. So the Beit Yosef wrote a sefer called Kesef Mishneh. On the Rambam, there's a book called Kesef Mishneh. It's actually the Beit Yosef, Maran the Beit Yosef, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. So he wrote two books. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch and he wrote the Kesef Mishneh. The Kesef Mishneh, once he was trying to figure out a Rambam. How do you figure out a Rambam? You learn the Gemara over and over and over and over and over. And you try to see how the Rambam understood the Gemara. I don't understand. How did he write this from this? So they say that he was working for 2 weeks on the Rambam. And they say that once he got it. He got the Rambam. So he didn't eat, he didn't sleep, and he came out, he took a little walk, and he passed by the cheder, where the kids are learning. And the kid is learning the Gemara that he just learned. So he tilts his ear to hear how the kids learning the Gemara, and he's learning with his Chavuta the Gemara the same way that the Beit Yosef just explained. Meaning what it just took him 2 weeks of the Gadol Ador to figure out, now the kid figured it out in 2 seconds. Like he just explains the Gemara so simply like that. So he had Chadishut Adat. He says, what? So he went to his Rebbe, the Beit Yosef, and he asked him, he went to the Arizal. He said, Rebbe, how can it be? I had 2 weeks working on this, a kid understands it in 1 day. Maybe I'm not who I think I am. I told him, you don't understand. The pshat of the Rambam that you said was closed up, it was hidden, it was satun for 500 years. Because from the Rambam, the Beit Yosef, 500 years. Nobody figured out the Rambam until you came and you broke the klipa to figure out the Rambam. Now, since you broke it spiritually, whoever's going to read it can understand that easily. That means that the tzaddik does the avodah and then opens up the path for everybody else. Some scientist figures out how to make AI. And everybody can use it, but he probably took him 30 years to figure out how to work it, and now you can just plug in the air. What somebody told me yesterday, there's the 1 minute mile, or the you know what's the fastest the sprinters, you know the sprinter, what's a sprinter, what's like the 100 meter dash in how many seconds?
9 point something seconds.
Okay, but you know it seemed to be like he told me that at a certain point it was only done in 10 seconds, and then one guy broke it at 9 seconds.
Yeah, Ben Johnson, they took drugs.
Whatever, but then after he did it, then everybody else is able to do it.
Yeah.
It's almost like once somebody breaks spiritually, then everybody else can come in and do it. So Rabbeinu broke the klipa to get to Eretz Yisrael, and then everybody can go to Eretz Yisrael. His Misirat Nefesh allows us to do it very easily. NASA has all the technology before it comes to your car, before it comes to your phone. So they break it at the highest level, and then it becomes accessible for everybody. Amen.